An ecosystem can be functional unit of nature where we living organisms interact among themselves and also with the surrounding and physical environment. Many ecosystem varies greatly in size from a small pond to a large forest or a sea. Many ecologists regard the entire biosphere as a global ecosystem, as a composite of all local ecosystems on Earth. Since this system is too much big and complex to be studied at one time, it is convenient to divide it into two basic categories, namely the terrestrial and aquatic. Forest, grassland, desert are some examples of terrestrial ecosystem. Pond, lake, wetland, river, and estuaries are some examples of aquatic ecosystem. Crop fields and aquarium may also be considered as a man-made ecosystem. We will look at the structure of ecosystem and in order to appreciate the input productivity, transfer of degradation and an energy loss. We will also look at the relationship cycles chains webs that are created as a result of this energy flow within the ecosystem and their interrelationship. Ecosystem structure and functional unit. In earlier classes, you have looked at the various components of the environment, abiotic and abiotic. You studied how the individual biotic and abiotic factors affected each other and their surroundings. Let us look at this component in a more integrated manner and see how the flow of energy takes place within this component of the ecosystem. Interaction of biotic and abiotic components result in a physical structure that is a characteristic for each other ecosystem. Interaction of biotic and abiotic components result in a physical structure that is characteristic for each type of ecosystem. Identification, identification and enumeration of a plant and animal species on ecosystem which give its species composition. Vertical distribution of any species occupying different level is called stratification. For example, trees occupy top vertical strata or layer of a forest, shrubs the second, and herbs and grasses occupy the bottom layer. The components of the ecosystem are seen through the function as the unit when you consider the following aspect: productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycle. Productivity, energy flow, and nutrient cycle. To understand the ethos of an aquatic ecosystem, let us make a small pond as an example. This is a fairly a self-sustainable unit and rather a simple example that explain even the complex interaction that exists in ecosystem. A pond is a shallow water body in which all the above mentioned four basic components of an ecosystem are well exhibited. The abiotic components in the is the water with all dissolved inorganic. The abiotic component is the water with all dissolved inorganic organic substance and rich soil deposit in the bottom of the pond. The solar input, the cycle of temperature, the day length, and other climatic conditions regulate the rate of function of the entire pond. Solar input, cycle of temperature, day or length, and other climatic conditions regulate the function of entire pond. The autotrophic component include the phytoplankton. Autotrophic component include phytoplankton, some algae, and floating submerged and marginal plants found at the edges. The consumers are represented by the zooplankton, the free swimming and bottom dwelling forms. zooplankton से इधर कंज्यूमर जो है zooplankton है. The decomposer are fungus, bacteria, and flagellated, especially abundant in the bottom of the pond. Fungi, bacteria, and flagellates. This system performs all functions of an ecosystem and on the biosphere as a whole. That is the conversion of organic material with the help of radiant energy by sun, order of consumption of autotroph, heterotroph, also decomposition and mineralization of a dead matter to release them back for use by autotroph. These events are repeated over again and again. There is unidirectional movement of energy towards the higher trophic level and its dissipation and loss of heat or to the environment. There is unidirectional movement of energy towards the higher trophic level and its dissipation and loss as a heat or to the environment. 12.2 productivity. A constant input of a solar energy is basic required for any ecosystem to function and sustain. Primary production is defined as the amount of biomass or organic matter produced per unit area over a time period by plant during photosynthesis. It is expressed in the terms of weight gram inverse or kilocalorie meter inverse. The rate of biomass uh, it is expressed in weight gram meter inverse or energy kilocalorie meter in square inverse. The rate of biomass productivity called productivity it is expressed in terms of gram inverse year inverse 1 or kilocalorie meter inverse square year inverse. To compare the productivity of different ecosystems, it can be divided into gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. Gross primary productivity of an ecosystem is the rate of production of organic during photosynthesis, and a considerable amount of GPP is utilized by plant in respiration. Gross primary productivity minus respiration losses is the net primary productivity. Gross primary productivity minus respiratory loss is equal to net primary productivity. Net primary productivity is the available biomass for the consumption of heterotrophs, herbivores, and decomposition. Secondary productivity is defined as the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumer. Secondary productivity is defined as the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumer. न्यू ऑर्गेनिक मैटर बाय कंज्यूमर को हम सेकेंडरी बोलते हैं सेकेंडरी प्रोडक्टिविटी. Primary productivity depends on the plant species inhabiting a particular area. It also depends on a variety of environmental factors, availability of nutrients, and photosynthesis capacity of a plant. Therefore, it varies in different types of ecosystem. Primary productivity depends on the plant species inhabiting a particular area. It also depends on a variety of environmental factors, availability of nutrients, and photosynthetic capacity of plants. Therefore, it varies in different types of ecosystem. The annual net primary productivity. The annual net primary productivity of the whole biosphere is approximately 170 billion tons of organic matter. The annual net primary productivity of whole biosphere is approximately 170 billion. 170 billion है organic matter का terabyte of organic matter. Of this, despite occupying 70% of the surface, the productivity of the ocean only 55. The rest, of course, is on land. Discuss the main reason for the low productivity of the ocean with your teacher. You may have heard the the earth form being referred to as the farmers. The earth form being referred to as the farmer friend. This is so because they help in breakdown of a complex of organic matter as well as loosening of soil. Very important for association. The earth form being referred to as farmer friend. Earth form refers to as the farmer friend because they help in the breakdown of a complex organic matter as well as loosening of the soil. Loosening of the soil or organic matter कॉम्प्लेक्स ऑर्गेनिक मैटर के ब्रेकडाउन के लिए काम आती है. ठीक. Similarly, decomposer break down the complexes organic matter into inorganic. Decomposer break down complexes organic matter into inorganic. Substance like carbon dioxide, water, nutrition, and process. This is called decomposition. Dead plant remains such as leaves, barks, flowers, and dead remains of animals, including fecal matter, constitute nutrients. This is a raw material for decomposition. The important steps in the process of decomposition are fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humidification, and mineralization. Retrieval example earthworm break down nutrition into small particles. This process is called fragmentation. By the process of leaching, water insoluble inorganic nutrition go down in the soil and get precipitated as unavailable salt. Get precipitated. Bacterial and fungal enzymes degrade the traces into simple inorganic substances. This process is called catabolism. It is important to note that all about the step in decomposition operate simultaneously on the detritus. Humidification on the detritus, humidification and mineralization occur in decomposition of the soil. Humidification leads Humidification leads to accumulate of a dark colored amorphous substance called humus that is highly resistant to microbial action and undergoes decomposition at an extremely slow rate. ह्यूमस इज हाईली रेजिस्टेंट होता है और डिकम्पोजिशन बहुत स्लो रेट में करता है बीइंग क्वालिटी इट्स सर्व्स एज अ रिजर्वियर ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स इसलिए रिजर्वियर ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स होता है ह्यूमस ह्यूमस इज द रिजर्वियर ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स the humus is further degraded by some microbes and released into inorganic nutrients occurred by the process called mineralization. Humus को further decomposition के लिए जो step होता है उसको बोलते हैं mineralization. Decomposition is largely an oxygen required process. Decomposition is largely an oxygen required process. The rate of decomposition is controlled by the chemical composition of detritus and climatic factor. Rate of decomposition डिपेंड करता है climatic composition of detritus and climatic factor में. Decomposition is largely oxygen required process. Decomposition के लिए oxygen required होता है. In a particular climatic condition, decomposition rate if slower if is slower if detritus is rich in lignin and chitin, and quicker if detritus is rich in nitrogen and water soluble substances like sugar. Temperature. Temperature and soil moisture are most important climatic factors that regulate decomposition through their effects on the activity of soil microbes. Warm and moist environment favor decomposition, whereas low temperature and anaerobic inhibit decomposition, resulting in a build-up of organic matter. डिकम्पोजिशन रेट इज स्लोअर. अगर डेटास रिच होगा लिग्निन और चाइटिन में तो डिकम्पोजिशन स्लो होगा, और जल्दी होगा अगर नाइट्रोजन और वाटर सॉल्युबल सब्सटेंस उसके अंदर होंगे तो. और टेम्परेचर लो है तो बताइए. डायग्राम देख लेते हैं. डायग्राम इसका डायग्रामेटिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ साइकिल एंड ट्रांजिशन रिप्रेजेंटेशन. ट्रीज से पत्ता चढ़ा, पत्ता गया, ग्रीन लीफ फॉल ऑन टू द ग्राउंड. सब सारे ईटन बाय इंसेक्ट एनिमल एंड न्यूट्रिएंट्स एंड एनर्जी इंटर द फूड वेब. बाकी का फूड वेब में चलेगा और कुछ इंसेक्ट खा लेंगे. ठीक है. फिर इससे बनेगा सम न्यूट्रिएंट्स लीच इनटू सॉइल बाय केमिकल एक्शन, ऑर्गेनिक रिच सॉइल. फिर लीव्स partially consumed by decomposers such as fungi and bacteria, they begin to lose form and become litter. फिर ऐसे फर्दर डिकम्पोजिशन होगा बाय अर्थ फॉर्म एंड बैक्टीरिया एंड सॉइल मॉइस्चर. फिर ऑर्गेनिक सॉइल बनेगा. फिर फर्दर ये जाके प्लांट को ही हेल्प करेगा. एनर्जी फ्लो. एक्सेप्ट फॉर द हाइड्रोथर्मल इकोसिस्टम, sun is the only source of energy for all ecosystem of earth. Of the sun is the only source except क्या है, sun is only source for all ecosystem on the earth. सही बात है. Except for deep sea hydro. Of the incident of solar radiation, less than 50% of photosynthesis. Of the incident solar radiation, less than 50% of it is photosynthetically active radiation. We know that the plants and photosynthetic bacteria fix sun's radiant energy to make food from a simple inorganic material. Plants capture only 2 to 10% of PR, and this small amount of energy sustains entire living world. So it is very important to know how the solar energy captured by plant flows through different organisms of an ecosystem. All organisms are dependent for their food on producer, either directly or indirectly. So you find unidirectional flow of energy from the sun to the producer and to consumers. In this, in keeping with the first law of thermodynamics, further ecosystems are not exempt from the second law of thermodynamics. They need a constant supply of energy to synthesize the molecule they require to counteract the universal tendency towards the increasing disorderliness. The green plant in the ecosystem are called producers. In a terrestrial ecosystem, major producers are herbaceous and woody plants. In a terrestrial ecosystem, major producers are herbaceous and woody plants. Likewise, producers in an aquatic ecosystem are various species like phytoplankton, algae, and higher plants. You have read about the food chains and webs exist in nature, starting from the plants are or rather webs or formed such that animal feeds on a plant or another animal and in turn eats food for another. The chain or web is formed because of this interdependency. No energy that is trapped into an organism remains in it forever. The energy trapped by the producer, hence it is either passed to a consumer of the organism, either passed on to a consumer for organism dies. Death of organism is the beginning of the data food chain. Death of organism is a beginning of a food chain or web. No energy that is trapped into an organism remain in it forever. The energy trapped by the producer and producer, hence it is either passed to a consumer or the organism dies. Death of organism is the beginning of the detritus food chain. All animal depends on plants directly or indirectly for their food needs. They are hence called consumer and also heterotrophs. If they feed on the producer, the plants, they are called primary consumer. And if the animal eat other animal, which in turns to eat the plant or they produce, they are called secondary consumer. Likewise, you could have tertiary consumer too. Obviously, the primary consumer will be herbivores. Some common herbivores are insects, birds, mammals, and mammals in terrestrial ecosystem, and mollusks in aquatic ecosystem. प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर हर्बीवोरस तो प्राइमरी हर्बीवोरस कौन कौन है हर्बीवोरस है इंसेक्ट्स है बर्ड्स है मैमल्स हैं इन टेरेस्ट्रियल इकोसिस्टम और मॉलस्क हैं इन एक्वाटिक इकोसिस्टम हर्बीवोरस मॉलस्क इज हर्बीवोरस इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट mollusk is herbivorous in in water consumer the consumer that uh, The consumer that feed on these herbivores are carnivores or more directly primary carnivores through secondary consumer. Those animals that depends on primary carnivores for food are labeled as secondary carnivores. A simple grazing food chain (GFC) grazing food chain is depicted below. Grass producer उसको खाएगा goat primary consumer उसको खाएंगे main secondary consumer. The detritus food chain begin (DFC) begin with dead organic matter. Detritus food chain begin with the dead organic matter. It is made up of decomposer which are heterotrophic organisms, mainly fungi and bacteria. It is made up of decomposer which are heterotrophic organisms, mainly fungi and bacteria. They meet their energy and nutrients requirement by the degrading dead organic matter or detritus. They meet their energy and nutrients requirement by degrading dead organic matter or detritus. These are also known as saprotrophs. Sapro means to decompose. Decomposes secrete digestive enzymes that break down dead and waste material into simple inorganic or organic material which are subsequently absorbed by them. In an aquatic ecosystem, GFC is a major grazing protein is a major conduit of energy flow in an aquatic ecosystem. ठीक है aquatic ecosystem में GFC बहुत important है ठीक है as against this, in a terrestrial ecosystem, a much larger fraction of energy flow through the detritus food chain than through the grazing food chain. टेरेस्ट्रियल इकोसिस्टम में DFC ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है एज कम्पेयर टू GFC. Detritus food chain may be connected with the grazing food chain at some level. TFC और GFC एक दूसरे पे कनेक्ट हो सकते हैं एट सम लेवल. Detritus food chain may be connected with the grazing food chain at some level. Some of organism DFC are prey to GFC of animals, and in natural ecosystems, some animals like cockroach, crows, etc. are omnivorous. This natural interconnection of food chain make it food web. How would you classify organism? Organisms occupy a place in natural surrounding or in a community according to their feeding relationship with the other organisms based on the source of their nutrition or food. Organisms occupy a specific place in a food chain that is known as their trophic level. Producers belongs to first trophic level herbivores, primary consumer, to the second and carnivores, secondary consumer, to the third, look at diagram. प्रोड्यूसर, उसके बाद प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर, उसके बाद सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर, टर्शियरी। प्रोड्यूसर कौन कौन होता है? फर्स्ट ट्रॉपिक लेवल प्लांट्स, फाइटोप्लैंक्टन, ग्रास ट्री, फाइटोप्लैंक्टन, ग्रास ट्री। सेकेंडरी ट्रॉपिक लेवल कौन कौन होता है? जू प्लैंक्टन, ग्रासहोपर एंड काउ। जू जू प्लैंक्टन, ग्रासहोपर एंड काउ। सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर जो होता है वो थर्ड ट्रॉपिक लेवल होता है, और वो होता है कार्निवोरस। कार्निवोरस से सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर बर्ड फिशेस ऑफ वॉल। टर्शियरी कंज्यूमर होता है फोर्थ ट्रॉपिक लेवल मैन ऑन लैंड, टॉप कार्निवोर। The important point to note is that the amount of energy decreases at successive tropic level. When the any organism dies, it is converted to the detritus or dead biomass that serve as an energy source of decomposed organism at each tropic level depend on those of lower tropic level of their energy demands. Organism at tropic level depends on those at the lower tropic level of their energy demand. Each tropic level has a certain mass of living material in a particular time called standing crop. Each tropic level has a certain mass of living material at a particular level time. It's called standing crop. Standing crop is biomass. The standing crop is measured as the mass of a living organism biomass. Or the number in a unit area. The biomass of a species is expressed in terms of fresh or dry weight. Measurement of biomass in terms of dry weight is more accurate. Measurement of measurement of biomass in terms of dry weight is more accurate. Measurement of biomass in terms of dry weight is more accurate. Why? The number of tropical level in the grazing food chain is restricted as the transfer of energy flow 10% low. Only 10% of the energy is transferred to each trophic level from the lower trophic level. In nature, it is possible to have so many levels: producer, consumer, producer, herbivore, primary carnivore, secondary carnivore in the grazing food chain. Do you think there is any such limitation in a dietitian food chain? सन हीट हीट करेगा और प्लांट उसको लेगा, तो प्लांट इज द फर्स्ट ट्रॉपिक लेवल प्रोड्यूसर। प्लांट प्रोड्यूस करेगा, फिर उसको अर्थ फॉर्म खा सकता है, वो बढ़ेगा, और हीट वो लॉस करेगा तो एनर्जी लॉस होगा। सेकेंड ट्रॉपिक लेवल में प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर आएगा, और प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर अर्थ फॉर्म भी हो जाएगा। फिर फर्दर जैसे फूड वेब का एग्जाम्पल है, हीट निकलेगा, स्पैरो खाएगा अर्थ फॉर्म को, अर्थ फॉर्म फिर हीट निकलेगा, फिर इसको खाएगी टॉप कॉर्निवर, डेट इज ईगल, अर्थ फॉर्म, फिर इसको फिर ओवरऑल इट इज द एनर्जी फ्लो थ्रू डिफरेंट ट्रॉपिक। Ecological pyramid. You must familiar with the shape of pyramid. The base of pyramid is broad and it's narrow toward the apex. Once one get a similar shape, whether you express the food or energy relationship between organisms at different trophic level. The relationship is expressed in terms of number, biomass or energy. Relationship is expressed in terms of number, biomass or energy. नंबर, बायोमास, एनर्जी के टर्म में हम रिलेशनशिप फाइंड कर सकते हैं, ठीक है। द बेस ऑफ ईच पिरामिड रिप्रेजेंट द प्रोड्यूसर और फर्स्ट ट्रॉपिक, while the apex represents a tertiary or top level consumer. The three types of ecology pyramids that are usually studied: पहला pyramid of number, दूसरा pyramid of biomass, तीसरा pyramid of energy. For details see figure. Figure is very important, नीट में क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं, ठीक है। अब figure 2.4a, pyramid of number in a glassland ecosystem. Only three top carnivores are supported in an ecosystem based on a production of nearly 16 million plants. Producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. ये 5 लाख है समथिंग, 70,000 है, नहीं 58 लाख है, ये 77 लाख है, ये 3 लाख है, और टर्शरी कंज्यूमर सिर्फ 3 बचे। टर्शरी कंज्यूमर सिर्फ 3 बचे। अब ये है पिरामिड ऑफ बायोमास शोज शार्प डिक्रीज इन बायोमास एट हायर ट्रॉपिक लेवल। बायोमास में भी हायर ट्रॉपिक लेवल 809 37 1.5। inverted pyramid biomass, small standing crop phytoplankton support large standing crop of zooplankton. Small standing crop of phytoplankton support large standing crop of zooplankton. Zooplankton बहुत ज़्यादा है, इट इज़ प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर, और फाइटोप्लैंक्टन इस बहुत कम है। An ideal pyramid energy observe the pyramid and convert only 1% of the energy of sunlight available into the net pyramid. सनलाइट से सिर्फ 1% होगा तो 100 से डिवाइड हो जाएगा, ठीक है, 1000 प्राइमरी बचेगा, फिर 10 कम हो जाएगा, 10% लो एनर्जी फ्लो का 10% फॉलो करता है, जो कि थर्ड लॉ ऑफ फिजिक्स का फर्स्ट लॉ है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन होता है इससे. Any calculation of energy content, biomass, or number has to include all organisms at their tropic level. Any calculation of energy content, biomass, or number has to include all organisms at their tropic level. No generalization we can make will be true if we take only a few individuals of any tropic level into account. Also, a given organism may occupy more than one tropic level simultaneously. One must remember that the tropic level represents a functional level, not a species as such. जो ट्रॉफिक लेवल होता है वो रिप्रेजेंट करता है फंक्शनल लेवल, ठीक है, स्पीसीज को नहीं रिप्रेजेंट करता है. ट्रॉफिक लेवल represent functional level, not a species as such. A given species may occupy more than one trophic level in the same ecosystem at the same time. For example, a sparrow is the primary consumer when it eats seeds, fruits, beets, and a secondary consumer when it eats insect. It's an insect. Can you work out how many trophic level human beings function at a food chain? In most ecosystems, all pyramids of number. In most ecosystems, all pyramids of number of energy and biomass are upright. That is, producers are more in number and biomass than herbivores, and herbivores are more in number and biomass than the carnivores. Also, energy at lower tropic level always more than at higher tropic level. All pyramids of number, energy and pyramids are upright. That is, producers are more in number, biomass and then herbivores, and herbivores are more in number than carnivores. Also, energy at a lower tropic level is always more than a higher tropical level. There are exceptions to this generation. If you were to count the number of insects feeding on a big tree, what kind of a pyramid would you get? Now, add an estimate to a number of a small birds depending on the insect, and also number of large birds eating the smaller. Draw shape you get. The pyramid of a biomass in the sea is generally inverted because biomass of fishes far exceeds that of fried of plankton. Very important point. The pyramid of biomass is generally inverted in sea. The pyramid of biomass in sea is generally inverted because biomass of fish far exceeds phytoplankton. Isn't that a paradox? How would you explain this? Pyramid of energy is always applied. That can be never inverted because when energy flows from a particular topic to a particular level to the next topic level, some energy is always lost as a heat as a step. Each step. Each bar in the energy pyramids indicates the amount of energy present at each topic level in a given time or annually per unit area. However, there are certain limitations of an ecological pyramid, such as it does not take into account the same species belonging to two or more tropic level. It assumes a simple food chain, something that almost never exists in nature. It does not accommodate a food web. Moreover, spirophytes are not given any place in ecological pyramids, even though they play a vital role in the ecosystem. An ecosystem is a structure and function unit of a summary. An ecosystem is a structural and functional unit of a nature, and it comprises abiotic and biotic factors. Abiotic components are inorganic materials, air, water, and soil, whereas the biotic component produces, consumer, decomposes. Each ecosystem has a characteristic physical structure resulting from interaction and amongst biotic and abiotic component, species composition and stratification are the two main structure features of an ecosystem based on the source of nutrition. Every organism occupies a place in ecosystem. Productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrition cycle are four important character components of the ecosystem. Primary production is the rate of capture solar energy biomass production of the producer. It is divided into two types: gross primary production and primary production. The rate of capture solar energy to total production of organic matter is called GPP. NPP is remaining the biomass of energy or left other the utility for the producer. The secondary productivity is the rate of assimilation of food energy by the consumer in decomposition. Complex organic compounds of activity converts to the carbon dioxide, water, and inorganic nutrients by the decomposition. Decomposition involves three processes, namely fragmentation of detritus, leaching, and catabolism. Energy flow of unidirectional. First, plants capture solar energy and then Food is transferred from producer to decomposer. Organisms of the different trophic level in nature and are connected to each other or for a food or energy relationship, forming a food chain. The storage and movement of a nutrients element and through the various components of the ecosystem is called nutrient cycle. Nutrients are repeatedly used through this process. Nutrient cycling is two types: gaseous and sedimentary. The storage of the and movement of element through the various components of the ecosystem is called nutrient cycle. The storage and movement of nutrient element through the various components through the ecosystem is called nutrient cycle. Nutrients are repeatedly used through this process. Nutrient cycle is two types: gaseous and sedimentary. Atmosphere or hydrosphere is the reservoir for the gaseous type of cycle carbon, whereas Earth's crust is the reservoir for sedimentary type of phosphorus. एटमॉस्फेयर में कार्बन बहुत सारे हैं, gaseous reservoir, और अर्थ क्रस्ट में sedimentary reservoir is the phosphorus. Product of ecosystem process are named as ecosystem service. Example: purification of air, water by forest. Thank you.